For one night only, the worst day of the week becomes the best day of the week. Happy National Dog Day, people. Shout out to Rufus. I know you're not watching. And the two dog-loving humans on your screen go by the name of Jessie and Emerson. This is The Sweat.
And on tonight's show, lots and lots of football. Something about Andrew Luck. And Brendan Glasheen interviews a former Dodger plus a current one, too.
Excellent, Smithers. Baseball sounds like a good place to start. A 7-game fantasy slate. DK Live editor Ben Zwyman is here to help, looking young and in charge and handsome. Nice sweatshirt, buddy.
Thanks, man.
You're always styling and profiling.
I try, The hair's looking okay today, but, it's International Dog Day, so I figured I'd spruce it up a bit.
Yeah, there you go.
You are lucky enough to have met my dog as well.
I am. Rufus is a fine, kind young gentleman
yes,
of a dog.
Yes, he is.
I miss him very much.
He misses you. Benjamin, Chaser Fade is the name of the game, so agree or disagree, please, with the following. We have 3 road favorites on the menu, Reds, A's, Dodgers. So Chaser Fade, LA is actually the best choice from this group. They're sending rookie Dustin May to the mound in San Diego.
Right. I'm actually going to start off with a little bit of heat and fade this. The Dodgers are 8-5 against the Padres this season. Like you said, Dustin May, Ginger Guard's on the mound for the Dodgers. Great young prospect. But he actually struggled against the Padres earlier in the season. So I'm not really crazy about it there. And the Reds and the A's are in really fantastic spots. I mean, I'm going to talk about Sonny Gray a little bit later in the show, but he's taking on the Marlins in a hitter-friendly park. The A's are in a tight AL wildcard race. They're only a half game out of that second spot. So they really can't afford to squander a game on the road against the Royals, who aren't very good. If I'm looking at both of those other teams outside of the Dodgers, so I'm fading the Dodgers tonight. And even if you want to parlay the Reds and A's, you actually get plus money on there. So that may be the route that you want to take.
Okay. All right, let's talk about the Reds. So the Reds-Marlins matchup checks in with a low 7.5 run total. Last time these two teams faced off in April, the Marlins scored just 1 run in 3 games. So Chaser Fade, the under is a lock here.
I'm chasing this. I'm very happy, very excited to talk about Sonny Gray. His numbers in August have been incredible, like video game numbers, like MVP Baseball 2004 numbers. 24 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 34 Ks. That's a 0.38 ERA over 4 starts in August. Like you said, he's taking on the Marlins. The Marlins aren't very good. Miami, pitcher-friendly park. Really the only way this game goes over in my eyes is if the Reds really hammer the Marlins tonight. So I'm taking those odds, and I think this game really goes under.
All right. Christian Yelich, who I just found out is going to be in the next edition of ESPN the Magazine's Body Issue.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Is plus 200 to deliver over 1.5 hits against the Cardinals. His numbers over the weekend, not great, Bob. 3 for 13 against Arizona, I believe. Benny with the good hair. Chaser Fade. He will not hit the over tonight.
I'm getting all, after you said that, I'm getting a little
I know.
Yelich has been streaky lately, I'll admit. So, I don't feel that safe here. But let's look at who he's facing. He loves hitting against the Cardinals. He loves hitting at home. He's hitting above 340 in both those situations this season. Adam Wainwright hasn't been very good on the road. His whip's over 1.55, so that bodes well for Yelich. And again, if you're looking at another parlay, you can parlay Yelich over 1.5 hits with the Brewers money line, and you get plus 419 odds. That was obviously a couple hours ago, so check those odds on DK Sportsbook. But yeah, I kind of like that position. Usually when Yelich goes off, the Brewers come home with the victory. So I'm gonna fade this that he won't go over 2 hits. I think the reigning NL MVP gets over there today.
Go ahead. Sorry. I was just going to ask him one quick question. Who he is more excited to see in the Body Issue magazine here? I'm going to give you a few options.
This is really important, so pay attention.
Okay. Brooks Koepka, Christian Yelich, Chris Paul, the Eagles offensive line, or I'll throw in one hockey guy for you since I know you love that sport, Evander Kane. Who are you most excited? Who are you most excited to see them with their close?
Evander Kane by a mile.
I love the beefiness. I think I'm going to go with the Eagles O-line.
Yeah.
I feel like Koepka's been in like the tabloids and stuff with that thong before. I'm not like, I feel like everyone's already seen that, so I'm not really crazy about Koepka. I'm going to take I think the best value is the Eagles O-line, right?
Absolutely. You see 5 guys with their clothes off instead of just one.
Wow, hot take. All right, before this gets too inappropriate, Ben, hang tight. We'll need you for some
Thanks,
DFS
Mom.
advice coming up. But first, a fun little chat with Todd Zeile, followed by NFL Spin Move.
Former Major Leaguer and current Sportsnet New York commentator Todd Zeile joins the sweat. Thank you very much for making the time here at DraftKings.
My pleasure. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. You played for 11 MLB teams: Cardinals, Cubs, Phillies, Orioles, Dodgers, Marlins, Rangers, Mets, Rockies, Yankees, Expos. Thank God for...
You must have that on a prompter right there, because that's pretty good. I don't think I can remember that.
Yeah, you work in TV. You know the deal. Hey, thank God for Baseball Reference. What was it like to have that opportunity to bounce around and eventually have to settle into a new home, a new stadium almost every year?
Yeah, I think early in my career I was a little bit, upset about it, or at least thinking that I wanted to be in one place. And I thought I had an opportunity to be in one place for almost my entire career when I was with the Cardinals, and some things that were sort of outside my control caused the first trade over to the Cubs. And then after that, I would hate to say that I became used to being a well-traveled player, but there were some experiences that I gained from it that I would have never had, including some playoff and World Series experience. So I think I found a way to make the most of it wherever I went, and find a way to contribute, hopefully, to the teams that wanted me there. And just knew that in baseball, it's sort of a nomadic lifestyle anyway. So make the most of it while somebody wants to give you a uniform, and and be thankful for those days that you're able to wear the uniform and go out and play.
Obviously, you work with the Mets now, being an SNY commentator. Did you feel most at home when you played for the Amazons?
That's a great question, because I think one of the reasons that I've settled into being, feeling like a part of the Mets family is because there was, in my travels, there was 3 very significant experiences that all revolved around the Mets. So I came there in 2000. And that was a very unique team. Went to the World Series, the Subway Series against the Yankees. I was there in 2001, following 9/11. Our team rallied. We were very involved in the community, and I think I just became more ingrained with New York and the New York culture and this city. And then I was able to come back and finish my career here, and really have the ability to sort of say my farewells and be with teammates that I enjoyed playing with, and with an organization that was really good to me. So I think those 3 things sort of solidified my relationship here in New York and made it more of a natural fit when I decided to try to get myself back into the game.
In the same year you said farewell, you hit a home run in your final Major League at-bat. Where does that moment rank among your favorite memories from playing?
It is among the top. I think there's a few that are actual Mets memories that I think I would personally rank above those. I think that 2000 World Series that I mentioned, I think 9/11, and then the post 9/11 game against the Braves, where that was just so much more than baseball at stake. And then, one thing that actually happened in that final game of mine that was at least as significant to me, which was that I had a chance to catch my final game, and it was something that I had been asking the organization if I could do. I came in as a catcher and wanted to leave as a catcher, and got that opportunity. But even more so, one of my longtime friends and teammates, Johnny Franco, made his last appearance as a Met on that same day, and came into pitch, and his last appearance was with me catching. And the irony of it all is that his last at bat, his last batter face, had hit a pop-up to me catching. I caught the ball. It ended the inning. I turned around, handed him the ball. We both kind of shook our heads like this is a very real moment, and walked off together. So that was one of the most significant moments I can ever remember.
Wow, that's awesome. Let's talk now a little bit about today's game. You've seen a lot of the Mets this season. Do you think they have what it takes to snag one of those wild card spots, still a couple games back?
I think it's a great question. I think they do. I think they do have what it takes. I think what you've seen out of them this year has been a little bit of inconsistency, especially with that bullpen, but that seems to have sort of rectified itself. And I think all along they've shown promise because of the fact that they have an offense that's been able to find a way to manufacture runs, whether it be, with Alonso-style home run, with McNeil getting on base, with Rosario really coming through, with a guy like J.D. Davis really stepping up, and then with sort of a solid base like Michael Conforto and Wilson Ramos. They have a lot of elements in that offense that can generate runs. So when you pair that with, arguably one of the best starting 5 rotations in all of Major League Baseball, then the big question mark was that bullpen. And since the All-Star break, that bullpen has been about as good as any. I think they're maybe 3rd in all of the major leagues since the All-Star break. So with those 3 things together, if they can get all those things clicking on, the same page as they have over this last stretch, then I think they do have a chance to snag one of those wild card spots.
You mentioned some of your top memories. You played in the last Subway Series back in 2000. Any chance we could get that again in this year in 2019?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a chance. I mean, that Yankee team's certainly going to be playoff bound. So I don't think there's any question about that. I think it's up to the Mets to make the other half of that come to fruition. But the Yankees, being here in New York and always having had sort of the Yankees sitting on your shoulder right here, chirping in your ear, whether you're a Met or just a fan of the Mets, you always hear about the Yankees and been able to watch them. And especially with SNY, we do some coverage and analysis of the Yankees. So they've been a phenomenal story. They've been good from start to finish without all their stars. And they seem to be finding ways to win. It's going to be interesting to see if their pitching is going to be good enough to get them through a couple of short series, and especially how they match up against a team like the Astros. But, if those things happen, I think the Mets can find a way to sneak in, and it would be great to see the city come alive again and have a Subway Series 19 years later.
Let's talk about single entry contests. And I know we've been over the mass multi-entry now, the 3 max. I would guess, Drew, that a single entry lineup would resemble more of one of the 3 max lineups than one of these gigantic GPPs that you'd be playing. But is there anything different about a single entry than any of the stuff that we've touched on already?
No, not really. I think that the difference is ultimately in some people, as Mike alluded to before, have a harder time being contrarian the less lineups that they have. So naturally what that means is those types of contests often get a little bit condensed in the ownership, where the best values are higher owned than they would be in a mass multi-entry field, because in the mass multi-entry field, people feel more confident in being different because they know they have to beat so many people. In smaller field single entries, oftentimes people are like, oh, I can just play my cash game lineup, or oh, I'll just play my cash game lineup and I'll slightly pivot with a little bit more correlation. And you certainly can do that because there's fewer people you're trying to beat, but that makes it even more advantageous when more people are doing that to be a little bit different. So I would say the one rule of advice, or the one piece of advice that I'd give for those creating single entry lineups, is don't be afraid to be a little bit uncomfortable in that lineup building as well. Because what most of us do, what most of our instincts are, and I'm guilty of this as well, is when you're building out 3 or 5 or 10 or 20 lineups, those first few lineups are the ones you have all the confidence in the world in. And then you're like, oh yeah, I'll get different here. And now I'm being different and I have the contrarian lineups. But when you just have one lineup to focus on, ultimately, sometimes we hesitate to be a little bit different. But those are often the contests that you're getting rewarded the most heavily by being different.
Mike, any single entry tips you got for the peoples?
Nope. I think Drew covered it perfectly. 100% agree with what he said.
All right. Like I mentioned before, there's a bunch of ways, really, to get into the draws for the 20 DK dollars. You can follow me on Instagram, you sub to the show and leave an audio review, you share the show around on social networks, or if you just smash the like button for the video, leave your DraftKings handle in the comment section and give me your best tip to win on DraftKings, your single best tip that you have. That's how you get into the draw for the 20 DK bucks. And remember that promo code ThePME will get you 10% off the Daily Roto product, which we've been showcasing through. And there's college football as well. There's tons of sports up there. So you do want to look into that. But overall tips to win, I want to rapid fire this just a little bit. And Drew, we'll start with you. If I bring up, we'll play some word association here. If I say pace of play, how important is it to target teams that play an up-tempo pace of play and just run more plays?
very important. One of the first things that I'd look at each and every week is trying to figure out which teams are going to play the most plays so you can figure out who's going to have the most opportunities. Stacking up the most opportunities on your team is one of the best ways to add value above your opponents in DFS.
Mike?
Agree. Very important. Volume is king in DFS, and individual volume stems from team volume, which comes from the amount of plays they're going to run.
All right, Mike, we'll stick with you on this one. If there is a running back injury day of or after the pricing gets released, and there is that cheap running back who is going to get all the volume, but you know that he's going to be like 40, 45% owned, do you lock him in anyway?
Yeah, I say you can lock in if let's say it's a sub 4K running back and you're confident he's going to get the volume in all three facets of the game, rushing, receiving, goal line work, I'm fine eating the chalk in a high percentage of lineups.
All right.
Okay. It feels like fall here, folks. It actually does outside. It's been a tremendous weekend. I have not sweat as much as I typically do, and I can practically taste the pumpkin spice, which I'm also told that Starbucks is going to introduce a cold brew pumpkin spice. That's great.
Are you excited about that?
I'm more excited for the pumpkin beer. But best of all, week 1 of football, it is just 10 days away. That's like a week and a half. So let's put a fantasy spin on top NFL stories as we count down to kickoff.
All right, aka NFL Spin Move with DK Live's Jeff Ulrich, Reed Fowler, and RotoWire's Jerry Donabedian. Now, first things first, guys, the news that swept through social media like wildfire. Jeff, what was your reaction when you heard that Andrew Luck was retiring?
I mean, you're in shock at first, obviously, but when you really sit down and think about it.
Happy National Dog Day! Yeah!
Thank you, Jeffrey.
I brought him on. Emerson asked me to, but
I did.
Look, I mean, like everyone's obviously in shock about Andrew Luck, but when you really sit down and think about it, I mean, the guy was completely beat up for the first 5 years of his career. He missed an entire season because his shoulder was injured, or his arm, or his elbow, whatever. And then he picked up a new major injury right before. It kind of makes sense. I mean, players are getting smarter, so it's pretty shocking whenever something like that happens, like 2 weeks before the season starts. But you really sit down and think about it, it probably was a smart decision on his part.
Reed, I mean, where were you? What were you thinking? What did you tweet about?
I was out with some friends, but I mean, look, I mean, when you talk about Andrew Luck and what Jeff was mentioning, what he's been through, and really how he took over that franchise when they lost Peyton Manning, to where then they got Andrew Luck, they really didn't have an issue at quarterback for the last close to 2 decades. And then when you see what happens with the fans, and I won't get into that too much, it is really refreshing to see someone like Andrew Luck, someone who is that good of a player, a star in the NFL, quarterback in the NFL, really make a decision for his life and his longevity in his life rather than a decision that would have made all of us happy. It would have made the fans happy, would have made the organization happy, and it just wouldn't have made him happy. You heard in his press conference that he just wasn't going to go through that whole rigmarole of trying to get healthy again after being hurt, and the pain, just the tolerance of pain that guy. I mean, he got sacked how many times in his first 6 or 7 years? And the GM before Ballard only spent, 3 draft picks before the 7th round offensive lineman and all struck out. This guy was put behind enemy lines from the beginning. I'm happy for him, and it's refreshing to see someone make a decision like a quarterback for himself.
I mean, Jerry, obviously a good decision for his health, but were you shocked by that news?
I don't know if I'd say I was shocked. I think it certainly wasn't something I was expecting, but, a little bit of thought. It's like, yeah, I mean, if I were in his shoes, I don't like getting hit. I like traveling. I like spending time with my family. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. He's got plenty of money, and he can always come back in a couple years if he wants to. It definitely didn't sound like he really wants to, though. Like, I don't think it's going to be one where maybe if we do see him coming back more like 2021 rather than 2020.
Dude still left like 51 mil on the table. That's
yeah,
okay, though.
I mean,
it's okay.
At a certain point, I think you have enough that he seems like a pretty wholesome guy. He's not like...
Well, I mean, if Percy Harvin wants to try and make a return, right, that's like news. I mean, Andrew, like Hasselbeck said it, too. Hasselbeck mentioned that from what he knows about Andrew Luck, this guy, just put it in pencil, not pen, that this guy could come back, how much he loves football and how much football is a part of his life. Remains to be seen, but I kind of agree with that.
All right, then, Reed, with Luck retiring, how much fantasy viability does Jacoby Brissett have?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about 2 QB league Superflex, I think you have to mention him. I mean, he's probably in like the 25th, 26th QB range in terms of rankings for me. And you really got to look at these two regimes as two different stories, right? Jacoby Brissett comes in not knowing the offense, starts week 2, and from week 2 to week 16, he was fantasy viable for a little bit of it, but not so much, right? He averaged about a little less than 200 yards per game. But now he's got a few years under his belt on this team with this offense, a great offensive line per DVOA. They were top 5 last season, and they didn't make any changes there. Everyone's healthy, and this guy he uses his feet and his legs more than Andrew Luck. I don't think he's gonna. You got to downgrade all these guys no matter what. You want Andrew Luck as your quarterback if you're any of these skill positions. But I think in deeper leagues and streaming option, he's someone that I'd look at over maybe like an Andy Dalton, for instance.
Okay, Jerry, Indy has a much better roster compared to 2017 here when he did play 16 games.
Yeah, not just a better roster, but a better coaching staff. I mean, back then they were working with Chuck Pagano and Rob Chudzinski as the offensive coordinator, who since that year has been out of football. Now they've got Frank Reich, Nick Sirianni, who in addition to being competent, last year they led the league in pace, led the league in situation neutral pace. Maybe without Luck that goes down a bit, but it's still probably like a high volume offense overall. Brissett obviously isn't going to be as efficient with the passing as Luck. He's not a great scrambler, but I think last time he had about 200 yards, a couple touchdowns on the ground. So I'd probably put him in that early 20s range. Like certainly I'm taking him before the Joe Flacco's and the Marcus Mariotas. Definitely someone who in a 2 quarterback or super flex league is worth starting. In your standard like 12-team league with 1 quarterback starting, no, I don't think he needs to be drafted. If anything, is one of the final picks. But yeah, it's a totally different situation. Better offensive line, better weapons, much better coaching staff.
Yeah, Jeff, the drop off here, 2% from Luck. I mean, it's undeniable, but not as steep as it may seem. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, Jerry made a really good point about the coaching staff. I mean, I was going to bring that up too. It's a big deal. I mean, the offense under Chuck Pagano not as forgiving for a quarterback like Jacoby Brissett, who isn't as accurate as Andrew Luck was throughout his career. Brissett did score 4 rushing touchdowns that year. He's a big guy. He's not super fast or anything, but he's not scared to take a hit. He's got a little bit of Cam Newton in him like that. So I do think he's more of like someone you're going to look at in DFS. Week 1 is actually going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how many people take that dive because he's only there at 4,400. People love them some cheap QBs, especially week 1. It's a bad matchup on paper, but again, Brissett falls into the end zone once, passes for 200 yards. He hits value. So not really a season-long thing you have to think about much. But for DFS, he's going to be in some interesting situations because he does some games that went off with T.Y. Hilton there in 2017.
Jerry, whose ADP took the biggest hit with this news? Was it Hilton, Ebron?
I'm going to go with Ebron, actually, although maybe cheating a little because I haven't really been drafting him anywhere anyway. But I think he's the guy I think Hilton maybe could be the obvious answer because Brissett struggled throwing downfield last time he was the quarterback. We did see Hilton have 2 huge games in that 2017 season. And I just think Ebron with him, the appeal was all about touchdowns and efficiency. He's not a guy who's probably going to see a ton of target volume. And we saw Jack Doyle averaging 7 targets per game back last time Brissett was the quarterback. So I just think with Ebron, it's like if you don't have that boon from Andrew Luck, you're looking at a timeshare tight end who drops a lot of passes. And, there's not going to be as many touchdowns to go around without Andrew Luck, and that hurts Ebron more than anybody else.
Jeff, what do you think? Would you go with Ebron too?
Yeah, 100% Ebron for me. I mean, look, both these guys get a little bit of a downgrade, but again, you just look at the type of player. Brissett just was not as efficient as a quarterback. He's just not as good as Andrew Luck when it comes down to it. He threw Jack Doyle as the only lone tight end 2017, caught 4 touchdowns, had lower output than Ebron did last year with Andrew Luck splitting time between Doyle and Ebron. T.Y. Hilton's going to see a few less longer passes, but there'll still be games where they connect. I think Ebron's due for a massive drop-off from those 13 touchdowns, though. I'd be shocked if he cracked 6 this year.
Reed, where are you going on this one?
Yeah, I'll just play the devil's advocate and talk about Hilton. When you look at Ebron, his ADP was about right that 8th to 10th round, and so to fall drastically from there, you're talking about now guys that you see Dallas Goedert probably going like in the mid 12th around there. So that's where like potentially you could see Ebron's floor. But Hilton, Jerry mentioned it, right? We talk about what Hilton's production was in 2017. Those half of his close to 1,000 yards that he got that season came off of 2 or 3 games with those. They were just huge production games. And he actually only finished as wide receiver 20 in weeks 2 through 16 when Jacoby Brissett was playing. It's just those weeks that you didn't get those big games. Choosing when those weeks are with T.Y. Hilton, who is the epitome of boom or bust, is going to be really difficult. You start to see now him going around the Calvin Ridley, the Alshon Jeffrey type positions in terms of drafts. And, again, you like those better offenses now at Philadelphia and Atlanta, or do you like the better player who clearly, in my opinion, is T.Y. Hilton? So I would say Hilton's a little scarier just because of what the guys mentioned and just his production came in those huge games.
All right, Jeff, how big of a hit does Marlon Mack's value take?
I don't know if this is necessarily like a huge hit for Marlon Mack. It might even benefit him in the long run. Obviously, the offense is going to be a little less efficient, but you look back at Marlon Mack's last 10 games or whatever he played. I think it was 10 or 11 games in 2018. I mean, he got 15 or more touches in 6 of them. I can't see the Colts wanting to run the ball less without Andrew Luck. Yes, the offense might be a little less efficient, but, Donta Foreman kind of still coming back from injury. He's basically the main backup now. I think this is actually kind of slightly bullish news for Marlon Mack. I think it's just going to lead to more ball control football. And remember, like the Colts have a good defense and a good offensive line. So I think this might actually help Marlon Mack in the long run.
Reed, what do you think? Because the Colts offense without Luck, it's going to be less likely to get first downs, leaving Mack essentially with fewer snaps on the field, no?
Well, I mean, that's, again, you're talking about seeing Jacoby Brissett in that offense in 2017 because it's the stats that we have. But looking forward, like this offensive line, it was number 5 for Football Outsiders, and in pass protection, they're number 2. Right, so the first downs, you can kind of, I think you can kind of parse those away and say, like, it's probably going to be close to what we see in terms of statistics. And when you look at just the Colts in general, Marlon Mack, where he had most of his production were in the games that they were up. Right, I'm close to 80%. I think Scott Barrett tweeted this out just earlier today, like close to 70 to 80% of Marlon Mack's points production came off of when the Colts were up by 2 touchdowns. That scares you a little bit, and then the scoring, right? Just the touchdown rate at which the Colts are gonna have, that kind of scares you. Just Andrew Luck, you want Andrew Luck as your quarterback if you have a running back. He just rises all tides. So it scares me a little bit. But he was going into the late second, early third, probably closer to third. Now I probably just put him down in the 4th range or the 4th round because he still has that upside and he still has the ability. We saw that when he was in there to really get those workhorse roles. The targets, though, that does scare you.
Yeah, that's a good point about the offensive line. I believe Brissett was sacked like 52 times back in 2017 when he played those 16 games. Jerry, everyone else behind Mack on this depth chart in the running back department is injured. I mean, he's going to be out there quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I have to downgrade him. Definitely, he's still a pretty good player. He's got great role security, great offensive line, great coaching staff. But you look at losing Luck, and there's going to be fewer touchdowns to go around. There's going to be fewer situations where they're sitting on a lead and can just rely on Mack in the second half of games. I do think what Jeff said, like they probably will come out in the first quarter looking to run the ball more and establish the run more. But I think that, that doesn't always work out, and you sometimes are more likely to end up in 3rd and medium, 3rd and longs with Jacoby Brissett as your quarterback than you are with Andrew Luck. So I think regardless of intention, that ultimately it shakes out as probably the same number of carries for Mack, slightly less efficiency, and fewer touchdowns to go around.
I believe Donta Foreman, too, was waived by the Colts, I think a couple days ago, if I'm not mistaken. So,
probably.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you get. All those guys are hurt. All those guys behind him are hurt.
Yeah.
We don't know, but Mack might be able to get more targets, to Jerry's point, hopefully, right? Because even though he didn't get a ton, he is clearly their best back.
Yeah, he was. He was waived last week. But but like I said, everyone else behind him, you got some guys on the physically unable to perform less, others with like broken ribs. I mean,
yeah, Spencer Ware is there, yeah.
Yep.
It's dark. Thanks, football fan, though. MLB Hot or Not is coming up after Brendan Glasheen sits down with a baseball player here, I think.
Yep.
Well, who needs Batman when you've got the Catman joining the sweat? Dodgers fresh face, 25-year-old right-handed pitcher Tony Gonsolin joining us. Thanks for making the time here with us at DraftKings.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, so you got 4 appearances under your belt wearing the Dodger blue. You made your big league debut back in June. What was it like when you first found out you were going to the big leagues for the first time?
Yeah, the typical after game, call into the manager's office, get like the promotion talk. It was just a full rush of emotions. I mean, excitement, nervous, all the different emotions, and I didn't even really know how to process it at the time. And then I ended up calling my parents, calling my brother, like letting everybody know what was happening.
Hey, you got a hit your first major league at bat. So who says pitchers can't hit? How would you grade your batting skills on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh man, I feel like I'm pretty average, but yeah, got a good pitch to hit on that one and put a good swing on it.
You've been used now as a starter 3 times, a reliever once so far in your major league appearances. Which role do you like more?
I don't really have a preference.
Okay.
I'm just out here trying to help the ball club. You know, if they want me to start a game and go, you know, as deep as I can, great. If they want me to come out of the pen, go as deep as I can, great. If they want me to just, you know, clean up some innings here and there, awesome. I'm just trying to get the opportunity.
Right, you're playing for the best team in baseball right now. I don't blame you. Which big league players have you tried to emulate as you begin your career?
Definitely been talking to Buehler a lot. I played with him over the last couple of years. Been talking to Kershaw a lot, Rich a lot, Stripling a lot. Just kind of talking to all the starters and then mixing in some relievers like Joe Kelly or like Sadler. I've been talking to Sadler a lot because I got to play with him in AAA a little bit this year. Just you know, trying to get to know everybody and take the things that I like from everybody.
Hey, so as you guys head into the playoffs now, how much would it mean to you to be on that playoff roster as a rookie?
Oh, that'd be incredible. It'd just be an awesome accomplishment for me personally, but it also is a really good tell that the team, you know, puts their trust in me to take that ball whenever they want to.
You grew up in Vacaville, California. That's right near San Francisco, Oakland, Bay Area. 400 miles north of Dodger Stadium, so I gotta ask, did you despise the Dodgers growing up?
No, my whole family's Giants fans. Growing up, my grandma, just huge Giants fans. My mom, Giants fan. I personally was a Yankees fan, so it's kind of nice that the Yankees are in town and I get a start against them. Yeah, I just love Derek Jeter, so I was a huge Yankees fan, and then I actually hadn't gone to Dodger Stadium until last year in September.
That's awesome. Have you been to Yankee Stadium yet?
No, I've never been to Yankee Stadium either.
No kidding. Wow. We'll have to cross that off the bucket list pretty soon.
Yeah,
all right.
hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, so in L.A., similar to New York, a lot of buzz going on in L.A. right now. You've got you guys, Anthony Davis, LeBron James teaming up, Lakers, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Clippers, not to mention the 2 football teams, Rams, Chargers, expected to be good again. A great time to be in L.A. Do you think there's going to be an influx of some championship parades here over the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, that's the thing. Hopefully, we can start that off with one this year, and then hopefully, you know, the Rams or the Chargers can get one. I mean, Lakers, Clippers, you know, whoever after that point. But yeah, hopefully, we can start it off with a good 2019 season, and then get rolling into the upcoming football and basketball seasons.
All right, got to get to this. You and some of your teammates have been sporting cat T-shirts around the clubhouse, and we've even seen some articles referring to you, as I said from the top, the Cat Man. Tell the world how this started, please.
Yeah, I've just always had cats growing up, and then you know, I really didn't have any cat shirts until 2017. The pitching coach in Rancho in High A got just randomly, like, I think his wife like saw one at like a thrift store or something for like $5, and she ended up getting it and was like, wow. And then it was just on my chair the next day, and since then I've been wearing it. I only had one at the time, so I was wearing the same cat shirt every single Saturday. And my repertoire of cat shirts has grown, and yeah, so every Saturday I just wear a cat shirt.
I mean, this one of you with the cat shirt that looks like Star Wars, correct me if I'm wrong,
The blue one, the space.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, that one's a good one.
Is
that one's really good.
Is that a thrift store purchase?
No, that one along with I have a green one that are from a company called The Mountain. It's just like a graphic tee kind of clothing store, and they have some really good cat shirts.
What a plug! I had to ask because my girlfriend is a huge cat person, so we'll have to look into that for the holidays this coming fall and winter. Okay. Well, how many do you own? How many cat shirts?
I think I'm around 20 now.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
Look at
so
that.
I just actually got like a shipment in the other day. Like my someone in my agency reached out to like Hot Topic, and they were like happy to send some out, and I got like 10 new cat shirts just like 3 days ago. So it's pretty awesome.
So you're at a point now where you could basically have 7 in the clubhouse in LA. You could have 7 in your suitcase for when you go on the road for a road trip, and then you could keep another 7 at home.
Yeah, essentially, yeah, I could do that.
Look at that. I just planned out your wardrobe for you. Okay. Players Weekend is finally here. Your nickname for your jersey is Goose. Am I saying that right? Why the large water bird on the back of the jersey?
Yeah, so all through high school, actually started with my brother when he was in high school. He got it from like Goose Gossage, and one of the coaches just kind of started calling him Goose. So then I in turn became Baby Goose, being his little brother. And then once I got to high school, I kind of inherited the Goose name. So all my like childhood friends call me Goose, and just went with that one.
Back to baseball we go. Bringing back DK Live editor Ben Zwyman for a little game of MLB Hot or Not.
Wait. Something was coming in the frame, and we rolled the animation. Do it again. Oh,
a dog!
Smoochie!
Happy National Dog Day to your golden retriever. That's so cute.
Is that your dog?
They're not my dogs, but aren't they cute?
They're so cute.
Yeah, dude.
So cute.
Listen,
So cute.
you're going to get 0 complaints
So
from us.
Okay, MLB
So
Hot or
cute.
Not. So will the following players have a hot or cold emoji next to their name at the end of tonight's 7-game MLB slate, just in case someone didn't know what that was about. The dog gets the fire flame emojis.
Always.
Right.
Slate approved pick for me. First up, Ben, Mike Moustakas, $5,000. Hot or not?
Moose, give me the Flames. Half of his hits versus the Cardinals this season have been home runs.
Nice.
Adam Wainwright has not been good on the road. 6.64 ERA, 1.57 WHIP, 10 home runs allowed in 12 starts. This is a huge spot for the Brewers as well. They're 4.5 games back of the Cardinals in the Central Division. I think this is a great spot for Moose. Last time he faced Wainwright last week, went yardo, dong show, 3-run jack, 3 walks also in that game, so he's getting on base. So yeah, give me the Flames here.
All right, this guy will cost you $4,800. Fire Flames or Cold Snowflake for Marcus Semien?
Simeon's tough because he has a really great floor in this matchup against the Royals, but I don't know if he reaches the Flame status. Over his last 10 games, though, he's averaging 10.8 DraftKings fantasy points. Brad Keller gives up a lot of contact. Semion's going to be batting first in that order, so he should get at least 5 at-bats in this game. So right now, I'm leaning Flames because chances are Semien will at least face the Royals' bullpen a little bit, and that their bullpen is not very good.
Okay, how about Paul Goldschmidt? Is he going to be worth his weight in gold? And give you a hot performance?
I don't know.
For $4,500 here. I mean, wow.
Remember that segment we did for the Cardinals fans, and I picked Paul Goldschmidt, and he didn't do anything that night.
Yeah,
and I was against
I
the same
know.
pitcher, Gio Gonzalez. He struck out 3 times against Gio and the Brew Crew in that game. I'm not very high on Goldschmidt. He's better at home. This is a road game. He's striking out a really high rate on the road. So yeah, I'm cold. I think blizzard's in the forecast for Paul Goldschmidt tonight.
Now, no one inside Busch Stadium will ever listen to anything you say ever again.
Nope.
But excellent work nonetheless. We'll
That's
be right
good.
back
That was quick.
with NFL Over Under, won't we?
Yeah.
I'm Brendan Glasheen, getting your week rolling with the DraftKings Fantasy Flash. We wish Andrew Luck the best, but for the sake of your Week 1 lineups, time for us to move on. Time's a-wasting. In less than 2 weeks, Jacoby Brissett will be the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts at the LA Chargers. Brissett appeared in just 4 games last year. He threw 4 passes. Go back 2 seasons, the former Patriots third-round pick was tossed in the fire for Indy in 2017. 16 games, 15 starts, under 59% of his passes completed, close to 3,100 yards passing, 13 TDs, 7 picks. Brissett ended up with a clip of 14.6 DraftKings points per game in his starts. Not great, but not bad. There's a more glaring stat that's worth mentioning. We heard this all the time with Mr. Luck under center. Lack of protection. In 86 career games, Andrew Luck was sacked 174 times. That doesn't include the pressures. More than 2 sacks per game. In 15 games started in 2017, Brissett was sacked 52 times, 3.25 per game. It's a bit strong to say guys like T.Y. Hilton and Eric Ebron, for example, lose all of their value due to the quarterback change, but the theme in Indy remains the same. If Brissett isn't getting time to settle in the pocket and sling the ball downfield, the Colts are going to be even more in offensive misery.
We are back. You are back. These 3 are back as well. Our football panel tonight, Reed, Jeff, and Jerry. It's NFL over-under, gentlemen. Can these players overcome relatively low expectations and hit the over on the following totals? You have the first one.
So, Reed, Marcus Mariota, 3,500 passing yards. That is the lowest total among listed quarterbacks. What are the chances that he hits the over?
This one's going to be tough. I'm going to say under if you just look at progression from 2016 to last year. In terms of run play percentage, they've increased every single year. When you just look, when you just passing, in terms of their passing offense and yards, those have decreased every single year. And there's become more of a running team. I mean, they've come out, Vrabel's come out and they said, look, we want to feature this guy called Derrick Henry, who's really good. We saw in the last 4 games of the season. And Marcus Mariota has dealt with some injuries in the past. And even the games that he did play, right, the 13 games or so that he started, he was averaging less than 200 yards, and that really does scare you. His yards have gone down every single year over those 3 years. And now, look, you do get a better offense, right? You do get a better offense with Adam Humphries coming in. Delaney Walker is healthy again. So it is better than last year, but this team does scare you, right? It does scare you with what they want to do early on in games. They might be down a lot, so you might get some of those garbage time yards, but I'm going to say under here.
Yeah, I mean, the Titans traded for Tannehill this offseason as insurance because of those injuries.
And he's had a great preseason.
Well, yeah.
Great preseason.
So, I mean, Jeff, the question is, are you worried about injuries and Mariota? I mean, he hasn't played a full season in God knows how long.
God, like 40 years.
Yeah, man. I mean, solid under here for me. You can throw up the ice graphics. I'll pull a Ben out. But, look, you just look at Marcus Mariota and the Titans. I mean, this is a player who's barely been able to hit this mark when he's played 15 or 16 games, the couple seasons that he has. But then they bring in Ryan Tannehill. This is a team that gave up the 10th most sacks in the league last year. And you look at preseason, they've already struggled to protect Marcus Mariota. He's kind of been terrible, too, in his limited preseason action, which is only going to create more quarterback controversy. I don't think the Titans are that good. And I think once they start losing, they're going to have to give Tannehill a chance, which means Mariota's probably not going to play 16 games this year, one way or the other. Either gets replaced or gets injured because he gets sacks too much. It's an easy under for me.
Jerry, you taking the under too?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much what Jeff said. Between Mariota's injury history and the possibility that even if he stays healthy, they bring in Tannehill. I just think, I mean, his progression, he's been regressing, really. Like, he hasn't gotten any better and has possibly gotten worse since his first 2 seasons. And on the one hand, yeah, they did improve in the offseason. They signed Roger Saffold, one of the better guards in the league. Brought in Humphries, a good slot receiver, and drafted A.J. Brown. But the flip side of that is, like, now he has no excuses. Like, last year they could make these excuses for him. But just when you watch him play, he just takes all these unnecessary sacks. Like, I don't even know if it's that he's injury prone or he's just really bad at not getting hit hard because he holds on to the ball when he shouldn't. And I just think either way, especially the way that Tannehill has looked during the preseason, not that he's anything great, but I just think at some point they're going to get curious.
All right, let's go to Miami's Kenyon Drake. Out of a walking boot after missing the last 2 preseason games with a foot injury. Jeffrey, 650.5 rushing yards. Are we thinking he hits the over here?
I do like this over, and I mean we're flying a little blind because it's a new coach, new offensive coordinator, whatever. But this is really just a talent thing. I think Kenyon Drake is clearly the more talented back than Kalen Ballage, in my opinion. Anyways, we've seen Drake almost hit this number when he was in a timeshare, and clearly it wasn't even a timeshare. He hit it when he was basically playing behind a couple players for most of the season, and then finally got some work as the main carry back towards the end in 2017. Didn't rush for that many yards last year, but again, he was kind of used more as the passing back, and I do think he's got more value as a passing back, but I just don't think Kalen Ballage is that good. I think Kenyon Drake is someone who should be a main carry back, and I think he's going to get that chance this year. If he stays healthy, I think he'll hit this fairly easily.
Jerry, this is tied for the lowest total among listed running backs right now.
Yeah, it's tempting at that number, and certainly I think he's a better player than Ballage, but I just think I have to go with the under here. Anything with Miami scares me, not only with just the blatant effort to rebuild, but losing their best offensive lineman, probably Juwan James, and they have a tough schedule in September. I think this is going to be one of those teams where we see like 6 different running backs getting carries throughout the year, probably including 1 or 2 guys who aren't even on the team right now. I think it's just going to be a messy situation. Certainly I'd like Drake more than Ballage, but he hasn't gotten to that number through 3 years, being healthy all 16 games. And I don't, either whether it's injury or job placement, I just don't see him getting there this year.
Reed, Jeff's taking the over. Jerry's taking the under. Which team are you on? Team Jerry or Team Jeff?
I'm on Team Dottabedian just because I fade Jeff in every sense of the word. But he also makes really valid points. I mean, when you look at just this timeshare between, is it Ballage or Ballage?
Same
I have
thing.
no idea.
Same thing.
So if you just look at it, right, we're talking about a 50-50 timeshare. It's Jeff mentioned at the top, it's an unknown situation. Kenyon Drake's coming off of an injury, he just got out of his walking boot. He clearly is the more talented back, but why? Why has he not taken the lion's share of this position now with 2 different coaching regimes? We know the talent is there. We've seen it before, but he doesn't warrant, for whatever reason, the lion's share of the carries. This number means he has to average 40 yards per game on the ground. So the points that these guys made are extremely valid. Is how much of it, A, in the time that he's in the game, going to be on the ground, and B, how many games is he going to start? Does Brian Flores do what the Patriots, Matt Patricia, and what Bill Belichick do, with essentially commit to the run, where we've seen the Patriots be a top run play percentage over the last 2 out of the last 3 years, they've run the ball the most, or close to it, not the most, but top 10. So it's just difficult to see where this is. And at -110, when you're looking at those odds, I just don't want to lay that for virtually an unknown situation.
Jerry, how about wide receiver DeSean Jackson back in Philly, where his career started? 775.5 receiving yards. Can the 32-year-old overcome this? I mean, he did have 774 with Jameis Winston as his quarterback last year.
Yeah, he was awfully close last year, but he's 3 of the past 4 years he's fallen short of that number, and in all 3 of those years he missed multiple games. And even apart from that, obviously with a player his age and so reliant on speed, you have a little added injury risk. But even apart from that, you just look at how much talent they have in Philadelphia. And I think with Dallas Goedert getting on the field more in 2 tight end formations, I think the standard thinking has kind of been that Nelson Aguilar will be the wide receiver who comes off the field to make room for Goedert. And certainly that will be true some of the time, but I also worry that Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey might give up a few snaps to make that happen. And just Jackson's going to spend a lot of time clearing out the field for Ertz, Jeffrey, Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, Darren Sproles to work underneath. There's just a lot of mouths to feed. I don't see Jackson getting more than 75 targets.
Reed, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with this. I mean, if you average out the games that he's played or started, I mean, he's only hit full 16 once, right, in his career, and he's probably averaging around 10 to 12 games, if that, on the generous side. So again, 77 yards per game. I mean, this prop, like Jerry was saying, that they have so much talent. So this does increase Carson Wentz's chances in terms of his productivity. Well, you just look at DeSean Jackson. He hasn't hit this number. It's going to be close, but I'm going to say no.
Jeff, these guys don't think he can do it. Where are you going on this one?
I don't think he can do it either.
Oh,
I mean, he could do it. But I mean, look, we're talking about a player who's played 16 games once in his career. Like once. I mean, he gets injured a lot. He's older. He's pushing 33 here. I mean, the other factor is you just look at the Eagles' depth at receiver. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey hit this number last year. So did Zach Ertz. So we're going to have 3 receivers hit this number. I mean, and not Goddard and not Aguilar get involved that much. I mean, it's just a numbers thing. I think for DeSean Jackson, everything would have to go right this year. He'd have to stay healthy. He'd have to be really efficient on those deep balls because that's mainly what his role is going to be. It's just an easier thing to bet against, and it's more likely the under for sure.
How about tight ends?
Ooh.
Let's talk about them.
Okay.
One of them, David Njoku, been dealing with a banged up knee, stitches on the back of his head, 650.5 receiving yards. How much do you like his chances to hit the over, Reed T. Fowler?
Yeah, there's a lot of bad things that happen to David Njoku.
Like, what's going on with this guy, man?
Yeah. This is sort of an interesting one because we know the talent is there. We know the offense is going to take a huge leap. But a little like DeSean Jackson in the sense that the Cleveland Browns have a lot more talent than they used to. And even when they didn't, Njoku, find a hard time getting a lot of targets, getting a lot of production, right? When you look at their first 4 games, the Jets and some of these other teams that they're playing, they were pretty stout against the tight end last season. And so I'm going to say under here. You do like the Rams. The Rams gave up the 2nd most yards to tight ends last season. They made some changes on defense, but I'm going to say under on this one.
Jeff, where are you going? He's got an ascending quarterback in Baker Mayfield throwing to him. Come on.
God, I'm generally bullish on everything Browns this year, so I just want to snap the over. But this is like the one player I'm just not really sure what's going to happen with. So I'm going to lean the under, mainly because of these injury things too. It's never good to start the season, even if it's just like a head thing or whatever. But I'm going to take the under. I mean, we kind of mentioned it. There's a lot of weapons here. Odell's going to take a lot of volume. Also, the other thing with Njoku, he's not exactly flash that he's necessarily like tight end 1 material. He's really athletic. He looks good, but he drops some passes. He makes some bad mistakes. So he didn't really see that big of a pop with Freddie Kitchens as head coach either towards the end of the year. A little bit more targeting, but nothing like super special. So I'm going to take the under here. But again, generally with the Browns passing game, I like it this year.
Okay, Jerry, we're talking the lowest total among listed tight ends. How much of the reason that is the case, Odell and Landry gobbling up targets?
I'm gonna go with the over here. I think, and I'm partially because I'm a lot lower on Landry than most people. Look at the 8 games after the coaching change last year. Callaway, Higgins, and Njoku all produced much more efficiently. Njoku averaged 43 yards, 9.2 yards per target per game. Actually seeing a little less work overall than he did in the 8 games with like the Hugh Jackson, Todd Haley mess, whatever was going on there. But Landry was the one guy who really didn't step up once Mayfield took over as quarterback. He's the one guy who didn't have really drastic splits there in terms of the efficiency per target and per catch. So I think that he's going to be the guy who people are a little disappointed with, and that like him, Higgins, and Njoku are kind of going to all end up with a similar level of involvement in that offense. And then if you look, if Beckham continues to deal with lower body injuries, where maybe all 3 of those guys are really busy.
All right, enjoy the rest of National Dog Day, you 3.
Jeff, I just tweeted out some pictures of Wiley.
Yeah, we'll dip our he looks great. He looks great.
He does.
We'll dip our toes into the MLB bargain bin with Ben Zwyman after this.
What up, Brendan Glasheen here. Got your DraftKings fantasy flash. We now know the core of the Brooklyn Nets over the next 3 years. You could really see it formulating last December. The Nets signed Spencer Dinwiddie to a 3-year extension then, with the player option in year 3. The short deal allows Dinwiddie to hit free agency faster, and for Brooklyn, it was cheap, but it also locked in an attractive young player to showcase to top-tier free agents. And that worked. The Nets never inclined on keeping D'Angelo Russell long-term. They instead landed Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and DeAndre Jordan. Piece number 5 of the core is Karis LeVert this past Sunday. He, like Dinwiddie, also got a 3-year deal, but the Nets had to wait on LeVert given the awful right ankle injury he suffered mid-season. Despite missing 42 games, the 25-year-old shined when he returned right through the end of Brooklyn's playoff run. The Nets' commitment to LeVert, it likely ties back to July 1st or June 30th, whenever the thing started, when they were recruiting Durant and Irving. Brooklyn's in position to pay the luxury tax in the next year or so with all these contracts. This is it. This is the Nets' core. Here's the question. How do the pieces fit with no Durant this upcoming season?
Last block, last man standing. Sound the alarm. It's DK Live's Ben Zwyman. Are you ready? You good to go? You good to go, Big Daddy?
All right.
I think so.
We're heading to the MLB bargain bin. So,
All right, sweet.
Where to find bargains on tonight's 7-game MLB slate. First, let's start with pitcher. Ben, who do you have for us?
I like Eric Lauer of the Padres at 6,700 against the Dodgers. We talked a little bit about that game before. The Dodgers are only 8-5 against the Padres this season, so he's going to have a shot at the win, I think. And he's only allowed 3 or fewer runs in 4 straight starts. He's averaging 19.3 DraftKings fantasy points in 3 starts against the Dodgers this season. He's pitched much better at Petco Park. Only allowed 6 home runs in 11 starts, which is reasonable. So I think you're not going to see a too high of a run total from the Dodgers, which is good. And I think tonight's just between Lauer and J.A. Happ. J.A. Happ's going to be popular going against the Mariners for the Yankees just because of that win. But I think in GPPs, you're going to see Lauer at a lower ownership, which is more appealing. So I like him in this spot.
Lauer, a cost-saving option with upside. First base, take us there.
We're going to save even more money at first base. 2,500. Ryan O'Hearn of the Royals, he's batting 5th tonight in a pretty good matchup at home. He's got some pop. He's coming off a 2-home-run performance over the weekend on Sunday. He's going up against Homer Bailey. You have a little bit of a narrative. Homer Bailey started with the Royals. Now he's on the A's. Homer Bailey is susceptible to giving up home runs, so that's really what we're looking for tonight. 2,500. You want O'Hearn to maybe leave the park, and at that price, you're going to get very, very good value out of O'Hearn. So I like him as a punt GPP play.
Money-saving machine. What about third base?
Well, we're not going to save as much money here. I'm sorry, guys. Relax. 4,100 though. Eugenio Suarez, a bit of a park downgrade in Miami tonight, but he's got that pop. He's got that pop that we're looking for tournaments. He's kind of slumping, but again, he's in the heart of the Reds order. The Marlins are bringing back Pablo Lopez for this start. Lopez hasn't started since June, so it's been a while for him. I think he'll be rusty. He may not go deep into this game, so we're going to see that Marlins bullpen that's not very good. That bodes well for Suarez. So yeah, I like him as a salary saver, and he's a pretty good GPP play.
Ben, let's go to the outfield.
Okay.
Typically, three people play in the outfield. There's a left fielder, a center fielder, and a right fielder.
Fascinating.
Who would you like as a bargain play tonight?
Think about it. Think about it.
Yep, go ahead. Take your time. Think more.
We're going to stick with the Reds here. Josh Van Meter at 3,600. He's batting leadoff. Again, I mentioned Lopez, so it's a good matchup here. Van Meter has some pop, 4.56 slugging percentage this season. It's in a small sample size, though. Plus, again, he's leading off. He's got some speed, so maybe he gets on the base pass, maybe he steals a bag. Then you're looking at a pretty good floor there. At 3,600, that's a pretty good bargain. And I think the Reds may be chalky, but I think because you're getting so much salary relief with the Reds that they're good in tournaments. You're going to be able to pay up on pitching like Sonny Gray, who's been lights out. We talked about him before. So yeah, this may be a slate where you're going to pay up on pitching and pay down for that good Reds value stack.
All right, slate approved pick time. Look at the camera. Who is your lock for tonight's slate? And this doesn't have to be a value play. This is, who you're putting in your lineup.
This is anybody.
Yeah.
This is anybody
no
you like that you.
No matter what.
Oh, no matter what.
Anybody?
Anybody.
Anybody?
Anybody you want.
Yeah, dude.
Except a dog.
Well,
You can't pick a dog.
You guys aren't exactly going to be
dog.
surprised with this pick.
Oh,
and
no.
it is a bit of a value.
Whoop.
And his name is Aaron Judge.
Oh,
wow.
All rise.
For Aaron Judge.
Judge actually woke up a little bit. He'd been in a pretty bad slump. Hadn't really been hitting very well. Went back to the West Coast against the A's and the Dodgers this last week. Against the Dodgers, he homered in each game of that series to help the Yankees take 2 of 3. He's been homering at a much higher rate. 4 of his past 6 games he's homered in. Now he gets to face Seattle tonight. They're sending out a bunch of, who knows who they're sending out. I know who. There's Tommy Malone's going to come in after the opener, which is a very good matchup for Judge as a right-handed batter. At 4,600, Aaron Judge's price is way down. We're used to seeing him in that 5K range. And I think the Yankees lineup is so potent that you really can't hide any guys, So Judge is sort of going overlooked, I think. So as far as tournaments are concerned, I've been giving you guys a lot of tournament plays here. I think Aaron Judge is another GPP play that you should be looking at.
Do you know what his player's nickname was? Player's weekend nickname?
Oh,
It's okay.
It was an abbreviation, right?
BAJ. BAJ for Big
BAJ.
Aaron Judge.
Wow.
Ooh, baby.
Sorry, dude. He's not in the body issue, though.
That's creative. The Sweat will be back
Come on.
tomorrow at 6. We'll see you then.